They were the ultimate medieval warriors, monks who were also elite battlefield soldiers. They built a global corporation, they pretty much invented international banking, and they became more powerful than most kings. And then, almost overnight, they were just gone. This is the incredible story of the Knights Templar.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the central mystery here, because it really sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? How do you go from being just 9 guys who call themselves the Poor Fellow Soldiers to an organization with thousands of properties and its own fleet of ships? Well, it's an amazing story of faith, finance, and of course, fighting.
Every great story has a beginning, and the Templar story started with a really simple, noble goal. It wasn't about getting rich or taking over the world. It was about protecting people. So check out just how small they started. In 1119, you're talking about a French nobleman and just 8 of his buddies. That's it, 9 knights. Their entire mission was to guard travelers on the super dangerous, bandit-filled roads heading to Jerusalem. The king of Jerusalem gave them a headquarters right on the Temple Mount, which is exactly how they got their famous name, the Templars. It took a full 10 years, but by 1129, they got the ultimate seal of approval from the Catholic Church itself, and that's when things really started to take off. And what's really fascinating is their original name. Get this: the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it tells you everything you need to know about who they were at the beginning. They took vows of poverty and were completely dedicated to their mission. That whole poor part, though, well, as we're about to see, that didn't last very long. So how did this small band of knights manage to build a global superpower? Well, the secret wasn't just their skill with a sword. It was their incredible, and I mean incredible, genius with money.
The Pope basically gave the Templars a medieval superpower. Just imagine being able to cross any border without paying a single tax or toll. They could build their own churches wherever they wanted. And this is the most important part: they didn't have to answer to any king or any local lord. Their only boss was the Pope. This made them unbelievably powerful and independent, and pretty soon, wealthy nobles were lining up to either join them or donate huge amounts of land and money.
And this right here shows their most revolutionary idea. Traveling with bags of gold back then was incredibly dangerous. So the Templars created a system. You could deposit your money at a Templar base in, say, Paris, and get a coded note, a letter of credit. Then you could travel all the way to Jerusalem, carrying just that piece of paper, show it at the Templar base there, and get your cash. It was safe, it was secure, and it was basically the world's first international banking network. Absolutely brilliant. So you can see how this financial network, combined with all those massive donations, made them unbelievably rich. We're talking thousands of properties all across Europe and the Middle East. They owned farms, windmills, vineyards, and their own fleet of ships to move goods and people. At this point, they weren't just a military order anymore. They were a global corporation. But let's not forget what their main job was. The Templars were, first and foremost, soldiers. And they weren't just good, they were the most feared and respected fighting force of their time. The order had 2 main classes. The knights were the famous ones, right? The nobles in the white robes with the red cross, serving as the elite heavy cavalry. But they couldn't function without the sergeants. These men, who came from non-noble families, were black or brown and were the absolute backbone of the order. They served as soldiers, but also as blacksmiths, builders, basically everything needed to keep the whole war machine running. And this quote right here gets to the heart of what made them so different: discipline. Most medieval armies were chaotic mobs of individual warriors, but not the Templars. They trained constantly and followed orders without question. A Templar knight would hold his position in the middle of a crazy battle, even when it seemed hopeless, just waiting for that one single command. That's what made them so unique. This incredible discipline led to their signature move, a tactic so effective it became legendary: the devastating heavy cavalry charge. So here's how it worked. The knights would form this tight, solid line like a wall. They'd move forward together, picking up speed from a trot to a thunderous gallop. The sheer force of this armored wall hitting an enemy line was like a freight train. It was designed to shatter formations and create pure panic. After that first impact with their lances, they'd draw their swords and fight through the chaos they had just created. It was terrifyingly effective. For nearly 200 years, they seemed completely unstoppable. But their success created some very powerful enemies. And their end, when it came, wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the dungeons of a greedy king. So what went wrong? Well, first, their main mission kind of disappeared when the Crusader states in the Holy Land fell in 1291. Suddenly, this powerful military force didn't really have a war to fight. They were also seen as proud and secretive, and their immense wealth made other rulers really jealous. But here's the crucial point. One of those rulers, King Philip of France, owed them a fortune, and he wanted a way out of paying it back. Look how quickly this all fell apart. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, and yeah, that's probably where the superstition comes from, King Philip ordered every Templar in France arrested all at the same time. They were accused of all sorts of terrible crimes, and under intense pressure from the king, the Pope dissolved the order just 5 years later. After 2 centuries of power, they were just gone.
So, they were officially destroyed. Their wealth was seized, their leaders were executed, and their name was erased. And yet here we are, centuries later, still completely fascinated by them. Their story lives on in myths of hidden treasure and secret societies. Why is it that an organization that was so brutally and efficiently wiped out continues to hold such a powerful grip on our imagination? That right there is the real legacy of the Knights Templar.